Hi, my name is Jason,
And I'm Joel.
and we are RPA Developers here at CampTek Software. Welcome to another episode of Camp, a podcast on all things automation. Today, we're going to be touching on some aspects of a developer's life in their day-to-day work. And so, Joel, what have you been up to lately?
Oh, one thing I've been doing a lot of lately is something that maybe people don't think about as part of the development process, and that is the pre-development discovery and documentation, which is basically, if you've seen our previous videos on scope calls, it's what happens after the scope call, once we've gotten a look at what the process is. Developer usually goes through the video recording of that meeting, and we make process design documents, process understanding documents with varying levels of detail that basically map out our understanding of the process to be automated so we can go back to our client and make sure we've got things set up correctly before we start active development. I've been going through some scope calls that we've done with some of our clients and making these documents, basically taking out screenshots, writing down what the bot is going to have to do, where the information is held, where it needs to be entered, things like that. It obviously varies based on what the automation is and what the goals are, but it's a very important part of the process because it makes sure that the developer and the client, the SME, subject matter expert, are on the same page as we're going forward so we don't waste time programming things incorrectly or unnecessarily, and it helps the whole process go a lot smoother.
You know, now that you mention that, I haven't been on a scope call in a little bit. I've been in the middle of doing some more of the development side, but one of the last times that I was on a scope call, we definitely found some places that we could actually improve the process a little bit, places we could streamline certain aspects or unify certain processes so that different teams who might even operate out of different states or different countries might be able to have the same process streamlined and unified in a way that just wasn't happening in the company naturally.
Yeah, that is one of the advantages is our final process design document, or PDD, ends up mapping every single click and keystroke the bot is going to have to take. Because part of the purpose of automating a process is consistency. So it's going to go through the process and it's going to go through it the same way every single time. And in order to do that, we need to know every little minute detail that the bot is going to perform. And in going over some of these from the perspective of a developer, we're actually able to not only automate the process, but improve the process so that even if it were to be performed by a person, the person can still perform it faster while the development is happening. It's kind of fun to be able to look at it from that perspective, and a lot of times there's no reason to take that step back and take a look internally because the process is working just fine. Um, and there's never a guarantee that doing that is going to make the process better, but sometimes it brings a new perspective that can improve things. It's one of the reasons the documentation aspect, while not the most exciting part of the process, is one of the most important parts.
So you've been doing a lot of documentation, you said then. So a
Recently,
lot of what
yes.
you've been up to recently has been making that boring but valuable paperwork that sort of just outlines the whole process, makes it really clear what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of times at the beginning, once we have the scope call and the process is identified, we'll start with a very high level document that basically it's the broad strokes. And
Mm-hmm.
from that, we're able to make an estimate about how difficult a process is to automate. Because, that depends based on how many systems are involved, how lengthy the process is, how much well, I say how many decisions the bot have to make, but it's really how many rules are in place. Mostly,
Sure,
you know,
smart.
if if then else type of decisions rather than a cognitive thing. Um, but all of those can affect the development time, the amount of effort it's going to take, potential complications, the number of business rules that there may be exceptions related to that would cause the bot to flag a transaction for need of human review after the fact. Um, but that is a very important step. Make sure we've got the broad strokes down, give a estimate to the client in terms of how long it would take to automate, that sort of thing. And once those documents are signed off on, everyone understands where those are going. That's when we get into the nitty gritty and map out every single keystroke and every single mouse click. The idea is theoretically, if I'm available to do all of the documentation, but what if something happens and I'm not available to actually develop it? The document that I made, theoretically, I should be able to hand it to Jason, and it should be detailed enough that not having gone through the scope
Right.
calls, not having made these documents himself, he should be able to take it and build the
Yep.
bot. So that's the level of detail we have to get into these final documents before development starts, and I feel like that's
Yep.
something that's very important, but a lot of people don't think about when you think about the development aspect of it.
Right. Right. And to that point, I mean, we've had that scenario play out where I've made those initial planning documents, which I sort of like to think of it as like a blueprint to a house, where, this is where the walls are, these are where the doors are. How do we get between the living room and the kitchen? We need a sequence of doors or pathways to get there. You need to be able to get between places just like a bot and being able to say, hey, this is the plan, this is what we're going to build. Does this make sense to you? Can I hand this off to a different builder who can still build the same house? Can I give this to the client who is going to be living in this house, and are they able to look at it and understand what's going to happen? It's really taking that same idea and doing it in software and processes.
And in our case, sometimes it is the same person that goes through the whole process start to finish,
Yep.
but our processes are set up such that it doesn't have to be. That way it's
Right.
one project isn't held up at the because of or one project doesn't hold up another just in terms of a person
Right.
not being able to do two things at once.
Right. And that ends up helping us out on the back end, which I don't think we have time to get into right now, but it helps us on the back end because we can start addressing um, how are we going to support these bots once they exist? How are we going to handle it when, uh, some, let's say Joel has more free time than say I do. Maybe I'm in the weeds with creating another bot. Joel has some free time, something stops working on a bot. Joel can hop in and say, hey, I have the documentation. Let me read it real quick. Okay, cool. This is what's happening. This is what needs to be done. This is what is working. This is what isn't working. Sweet, I can fix this. Makes it really easy to help support other people. It's really quite versatile in that way. And I really like it. It really helps our communication as a team to have all the information we need accessible.
We hope this was helpful. We'll be back soon with some more insights into a developer's day. If there's anything specific you'd like us to discuss, leave us a comment and we'll try to address your question in a future video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.